All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dana Sparks, and I am the director of the Georgia Real Estate Academy. Welcome. This class, we're so excited that you are joining us. This is called Training the New Agent Mentor, and this class is taught by Patty Lovelace. Patty is the director of the mentor training for Maximum One Realty, Maximum One Greater Atlanta companies. And we're so fortunate that she is able to teach this class. This is designed for anyone who wants to be a mentor, anyone who wants to have a team and wants to bring on new licensees onto their team. And it is also a great benefit for any agent who is doing a deal and your co-op agent might be a little bit less experienced or a new licensee. This will help you with a little bit of mindset in making a really good, smooth transaction for that situation as well. So let me read to you the notice to students. The Georgia Real Estate Academy, which is the GREC. Hang on, let me share my screen, I guess. The Georgia Real Estate Academy, which is GREC School 6915, with the end date of renewal being December 31st, 2022, presents to you the following course of study. Training the New Agent Mentor. It is GREC course number 71041. This is a virtual or remote broadcast of an approved in-class course. It's 3 hours in duration, and it has been approved by GREC for the purpose of CE. And the virtual broadcast of this in-classroom class has also been approved by GREC for CE credit. Your instructor, as I mentioned, is Patty Lovelace, who is the Maximum One Greater Atlanta Director of the Mentor Program. There is no homework and no required written exam. You must be on time and present for all remote virtual broadcast instruction hours in order to receive credit. Roll call and documentation of your real estate license will be conducted via the chat function at the beginning and end, and actually at the beginning after the break. In general, all CE classes, you may only receive credit for a specific course number. Now that's not a topic, but that's a specific course number. Once every 12 months. If you've already received credit for this course within the last 12 months, you're invited to attend but won't receive additional credit. There is no recruiting for employment opportunities for any real estate brokerage firm in this class or on the school premises. If any of that happens, please report that promptly. Any effort to recruit on behalf of a brokerage to anyone, including a fellow student, to me, I'm the director of the school, or the coordinator of the school is Heidi Kelly. Now, you guys might want to write down Heidi's email address, douglasville@eagentweb.com. The CE credits will be recorded within 3 to 5 business days. It takes us a little while on these Zoom classes to amalgamate. There are 4 different reports we have to put together to come up with a true CE roster. So any questions or issues, contact Heidi. It will take us a few days to post these CE credits. We will not send you anything after the credits have been posted. You can check, you can log into GREC on your own and check your own CE credits, or your qualifying brokerage can check their roster and see what CE credits you have received credit for. Handouts for this class are available for your reference. If you go, I'm going to type it in the chat. If you go to www.eagentweb.com, and then you're going to click on the tile that says training videos, then you will scroll through that and you will see this class listed, and there are handouts there. There are links to handouts that you may download and use as a reference for you after the class. You won't necessarily need them during the class because you won't be able to see the screen and look at a PDF unless you're using dual screens. But Patty will present everything via this really interesting broadcast format. And I am going to hand it over to Patty. I am going to mute everyone. You guys will see that you do have a mute button. If you find yourself coming unmuted, if you will mute yourself, that would be great. But I am going to mute all. And then I am going to find Patty, and I am going to hand her there you are, Patty. I am going to give you the host duties. And we will get started. So welcome everybody, and thank you for your attendance. All right, Patty.
Thank you, Dana, very much. My name is Patty Lovelace. I am the Director of the Mentor Program at Maximum One Greater Atlanta. I appreciate your attendance here. This class is designed to use here at our brokerage for new licensees that come into the company and for agents who have their license and maybe have had it for a while but have not practiced in the last 2 years. So we do the program for both of them just to help them kind of set the cornerstone in their business and get going. So I hope you enjoyed the class. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat. Dana is going to help me go through those questions with you. And then right before the break, I'll ask you to put your questions in the chat as well. When we come back, we'll cover as many of those questions as we can. So I look forward to hearing what questions you have to ask and answering those for you. So I'm going to share my screen and put my slideshow up. So if you're interested in being a mentor or teaching others, it's a really great part of the real estate business because through each transaction you get the opportunity to learn. And my education in real estate has mostly came from the transactions that I have done. So every time that you do a transaction, it's a learning experience. So I like to approach every interaction with the agent on the other side and with my client as an opportunity to educate them as well as educate myself and just become a better agent. So in that is what drove me to want to be a mentor here at Maximum One, and also just to kind of put together a mentor program where it would be across the board for us, and to share that with other people so that just as an industry we become better and better. So just a little bit about me. I was in the retail industry most of my life, like I'm that old, but 26 years in the family business. And when my husband decided to retire, he asked what I wanted to do. And I said, I want to be in real estate. So he told me to go do it. And here I am. I got my license in 2014 and came to Maximum One in 2017 and became the director of the mentor program last year. So, Dana, I am not able to see. Okay, now I see. I was going to say it's covering up my screen. Don't know how to move this. There we go. When you come into the real estate market as a new agent, sometimes you feel like you're hung out to dry because you may not be getting the support and the education that you need. So that's what drove me to want to do this program, because I felt kind of hung out to dry. And I want to help other agents not make the costly mistakes that I made. And the mentorship program helps to do that. The program goal is to establish and direct an exceptional mentor program that is worthy of the standards that you encompass, your values, your integrity, your honesty, teamwork, all the things that are part of an agent's mantra, and just kind of pass those on to others. Again, helping to make our industry better and better. So this is a quote by Helen Keller I thought was very important. Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. And you probably already all know that the NAR statistics say that nearly 9 out of 10 agents will fail in their first year. That's not a great statistic. I think people get into real estate thinking that it's just an easy career, and it's not easy, but it's very rewarding. And hopefully together we can make that statistic better. So I like to ask people why you want to be a mentor. I guess you can comment in the chat if you want to and let me know what makes you want to be a mentor. And I can tell you, for me, I want to help people. That's my core value, is helping others. And through the mentor program, I'm able to help other agents set the cornerstone in their business, answer their questions, and I learn from them as well. You develop a way to do business and you do your business that way. And then when somebody comes in and they have a different thought pattern, it helps you to learn new ways to do things that you hadn't considered before. So I learn from my mentees as much as they learn from me. So it's very rewarding to be a mentor. Qualities of a great mentor. So being an expert in your field, willing to share your knowledge. So like I said, every transaction you get so much knowledge, you get so much education, and you get to really experience different things. There's no two transactions that are the same. So willing to share your knowledge is a great thing. And then great communication skills, be approachable, honest and fair, a desire to invest in others' success, and be a great listener. A lot of times your mentee just needs that support to feel confident and to know that there is somebody out there supporting them going into a new career, especially one that's all commission and one that you don't really have, people around you where you have a manager and you're working by the hour and stuff like that. You need to feel like you have that support system under you. So mentors should be able to provide that type of success, that type of support in order for the agent to be successful. Mentoring is a long-term process. So the program that we have is designed for a 3 transaction for a new agent. That new agent may come in and they might do 3 transactions right off of the bat, or it might take them a year to get 3 transactions under their belt. Regardless, the process of being the mentor still has to be followed and carried through, because if they do the 3 transactions right up front, then they still haven't developed the cornerstone for their business. So while it's a 3 transaction program, I just encourage you to know that you're in it for the long haul with them. They're going to still need your support, and you won't get through all of the steps right away. So making sure that they have their business set up will take longer than just a couple of months. So make sure that you're in it for the long haul, that you're there for them to come back to and answer questions even after the mentorship has ended. You're going to probably be their main source for information and guidance. And when they have contractual questions, how do I say this, or what form do I use, or this is what's happened in the situation, they're usually going to come back to you. So just make sure that you know that it is a long-term process, and enjoy the process, be in it for the long haul. So to be a mentor in my program, the qualifications are to take this class, which you get 3 hours of CE credit for, so that's a great bonus. Be a practicing agent, being a productive agent, and having been a productive agent for the last 3 consecutive years. Having great transaction knowledge, and then I also speak with our compliance brokers about your compliance issues or non-issues if you do great in compliance, and get a recommendation from them as well. And then of course, the broker recommendation is important to me to make sure that I am placing the new agents with the best mentor possible for them. So the newly licensed agent, as I said in my program, it's a 3 transaction mentorship, and that consists of 1 buy side, 1 sell side, and 1 of either. The way that Maximum One has it split up is on the screen. You can see how that works. And of course, you can set your program up however you want to, or however your brokerage wants to set it up. This is just the way that we have ours set up. If you have any questions about that, let me know. So what I have found in the working with mentees in the mentor program is that if you don't set expectations up front, then this program can really wear you out, because you're doing your own real estate business, you have transactions going on, and then you have a mentee who has a lot of questions. They might be working a part-time job and they can only talk to you in the evenings. So what I have found is that setting the expectations up front of when I'm available, what times I stop being available, how I can be reached, the best ways to reach me, the scope of what your duties are, so what you are going to do, and maybe a little bit about what you're not required to do or is not part of the mentorship, and then recap the mentor agreement with them. One of the major issues that I have had in the program is you're signing the documents on e-sign, and we all know everybody just kind of clicks, click, click, click. We're not really reading, not me, of course, but we're not really reading the documents, and we're signing, and then when something comes up, we're like, oh, where did that come from? Well, it was in the agreement. So recap your mentor agreement with them in person, have a copy of it, go over everything with them, so that up front that expectation is set, so you can head off a lot of the problems that you have, that you could potentially have during your mentorship. And in the documents, you'll see that there's an initial meeting checklist. Go over all of those items with them about what the program covers, what you'll be going through with them, and your expectations on them of doing their part. It's important to me when I'm working with a mentee that when we have our meeting and they get their assignments and they get their tasks to do, by the time that we meet the next week, they need to put the effort in, because I am taking time out of my business that's very valuable. Instead of working with clients or writing contracts or showing houses and stuff like that, I am taking that time with them. And so they need to know that that is very valuable to me, and it needs to be very valuable to them as well. So I want to make sure that they are putting the time in like I am. So on the initial meeting checklist and on your meeting record, you'll be keeping a record of those, and make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And if they're not, make sure you're holding them accountable to it, because you'll wear out. It'll make you very tired if you don't make sure that they are participating in the program as much as you are. And then answer the mentees' questions. What I do in my meetings is initially when they come in, we'll go over what we talked about last week. Then we'll go over what they've been doing in the past week to get business into their pipeline. And then I will answer any questions that they have. And usually at the end of the meeting, I will say to them, what questions do you have that we have not covered? That way they feel like the floor is open and they can ask anything that they need to ask. And they go away feeling like they gained the education and got the support and the value that they need out of the program. So when I set the tone, I have a little letter, part of it is in the slideshow that I give to them, and I let them read that. I do let them know my phone is off from 8:30 at night till 8:30 in the morning. If they're negotiating a contract or it's in a due diligence or something like that, I do make myself available for them. But just in general, from 8:30 to 8:30, my phone goes off and I spend that time with my family and resting and not doing real estate things. And when you're not going to be available for, like you're going to be on vacation or things like that, make sure they know that, so that your phone's not blowing up while you're trying to enjoy yourself away from the office. Set the tone for what you expect from the mentee. That's what I was saying in the meetings. We set up the things that they're going to be working on that week. And I always tell them when they come to the meetings, they're going to say, well, I didn't get that done because I had my grandchildren this week, or, you know, right now we're going through COVID-19, so that's got everybody's schedule, and everybody's out of their comfort zone, and we're just confused being at home all the time. You know, there's laundry to be done, and there's meals to be cooked, and there's a garden to plant, and it's hard to keep your schedule going. So I always tell my mentees, no matter what's going on in the world, there's always going to be something that can distract you from your business. If you want to be successful in this business, you have to pay attention. So you have to keep yourself on your schedule. You have to keep doing the things that are producing business and getting business into your pipeline. And so I want you to leave your excuses at the door. If we talk about in our meeting, you're going to have 10 conversations by the next time that we meet. The next time that we meet, you can't say, well, you know, I took the dog for a walk every day and I didn't call those 10 people. You have to hold them accountable for that. You have to find out what is important to them and start using those kind of things to hold them accountable. Even if it means, you know, you start telling them, I'm not going to spend my time meeting with you if you're not going to do the work. Whatever it takes to get them to do the program. Otherwise, they're not going to be successful in the business. So this is just a sample of what I give them. This is at the top of the letter. I just tell them that I'm organized and driven, but I'm also relaxed and have a good time with it. I enjoy real estate. I love what I'm doing. I just share those kind of things with them so that they can have a little bit of comfort knowing that we're in this together and it can be fun. I give them what I call a TATE, task, an assignment, a tool, and education. It's on the meeting record sheet that you'll see in the documents. And that's what we work through each week. And some of the tasks are created in a week or are completed in a week, and some of them are tasks that we do over 3, 4, 5 weeks that we'll continue building on each week as we go. So I'll let them know that I'm not putting them under pressure that everything on that list has to be done within that week period, but they keep a record of it so we know that they are working towards reaching those goals that we're setting. And I let them know too up front, a lot of people, like I said, get into this business thinking it's easy because as a real estate agent who's successful in producing, people look at us and they think it's easy, don't they? They think we're getting easy money. They think that we get to have fun, we get to go show homes, we get to ride around in the car with clients all over town having lunches, and then we go to the closing table and we get this big fat check. That's what people think. If you look at the drawing at the bottom, that's more what it's like. It's the roller coasters, the ups and downs, it's the negotiations, it's working the problems out. And we do get paid very well for what we do, but by the time that we close, we deserve every penny that we get. So I'll let my mentees know that while I'm helping them develop the cornerstone for their business, and if they do it correctly, the way that I've done it, or the way that you as an agent do it, that has been successful for you, they will also be successful, and it can be rewarding. But sometimes this business will chew you up and spit you out. So I set that expectation. You're going to have hard times. And a lot of times, especially for us women, there's going to be tears. You know, and that's okay. It's emotional. You're working with someone on the biggest asset that they purchase in their life or that they sell in their life. And it does kind of get emotional sometimes. So while we try to keep it all between the lines and all business, we can't get the emotions out of it all the way. And so I'll let them know that that's an expectation up front, that it'll be work, it'll be fun, it'll be rewarding, but it also gets hard sometimes. And in those hard times, they have a place to come to so that they're not left out, like this slide showed before, left out, hung out to dry to do this on their own and just kind of find their own way and make those costly mistakes and not feel like they're successful. So we set that expectation up front that we'll be there for them. So on a new licensee, the requirement in my program is that once they sign on with the brokerage, their first phone call with their mentor needs to happen within 48 hours. And in that phone call, they're introduce themselves, get to know each other a little bit, and set up their first meeting. Preferably meet the person, the mentee, in person. I know right now that's hard to do, and I have been conducting some of my mentee meetings via Zoom. We have also met in the classroom, social distancing, of course. It's just better to meet in person, as you all know. Through the computer screen, it's a little awkward, and this is very strange. So right now I'm looking at a button on my camera that's lit up, and I can't see any of your faces. So I prefer to have that face-to-face contact. So preferred is in person. You know, from time to time, your schedules don't match up and you need to do the meeting on phone or do a video chat, that's fine too. Just try not to make that the norm. Try to make it the exception to the rule. And then doing your task, your assignment, your tool, and your education each week, that's going to help keep you on course for making sure that you get through all the things that they need to learn during their mentorship, so that when their 3 transactions are completed and they graduate from the program, you have gone through the whole checklist with them. They've gained a great education and they know how to move forward in their business without having that safety net under them anymore. And you know, it's really great to see your mentee who you've worked with go on and have a successful career, and know that you played a part in helping them form that foundation that made their career so great. So just keeping up with that, the task, assignment, tool, and education, and making sure you're sticking to those things with them will help guide you in making the mentorship very successful. And communication is key. That's in life, everything, communication is key. So then again, I asked that question, is there anything that you had a question about that we haven't covered? And a lot of times that'll open them up. It just kind of takes the stress and the pressure out of it, and they'll relax and they'll open up to you about things in their career that they need help with that you haven't covered in the structure of the mentor meeting. And really that's where I find that a lot of our success is gained by just sitting back and relaxing and having those conversations. So new agents, of course, need tools and resources. These are tools that we have available in our program as well as just across the real estate market. So I let each mentee know that's newly licensed. Or the mentor as part of the program lets them know as well. Make sure that they're getting their 25-hour CE post-licensing. That's a big issue for an agent who forgets about it, or just kind of, we all put our CE hours kind of off until the end sometimes. And the new licensee who has 1 transaction or 2 transactions under their belt, or maybe no transactions under their belt, and doesn't do their 25-hour post-licensing CE, they come up to those last few days and then they're in a panic. They're trying to take every class that they can or find a program to do. And a lot of times they don't get it done in time and their license lapses, and that becomes very costly for them. So I just encourage my mentors to stay on top of that and make sure that they're taking their 25-hour post-licensing. And just so you know, it's not just 25 hours of CE, it's specific classes that you have to take. And if they're taking, you know, CE classes, even if they have 48, 50, 70 hours of CE, it's not going to matter on their 25-hour post-licensing CE if they don't take the right classes. So they need to make sure they get that in a timely manner instead of waiting till the year is almost up and scrambling trying to get that. Make sure they're doing their code of ethics training if they are a board member. Their 3-hour license law class is very important, and their 3-hour contracts class is very important. And for my mentees, I try to get them to take the update class too when their contract changes, making sure that they're getting that 3-hour class as well to find out what changed on the documents as of January 1st and as of mid-year. So then I also go over with the tools that are offered in the real estate industry that will help them in their business. There's a few of them here on the page that I use. There are so many tools out there available. You probably have some that you use that are not on this page. Of course, I use many more than I have here, but you know, important ones are Supra, because they are likely going to work for a buyer statistically in their first transaction or first couple of transactions, and they can't show the house to them if they don't have their super key. So that's one of their first tasks that I give, is to go over to the FMLS office and get their super key activated and make sure that they get their payment set up so it's paid for monthly, so you don't show up to the listing and go to use your key and it won't update because your payment didn't process. It happens to the best of us. It's happened to me. It taught me very quickly to go ahead and set it up on automatic payment. So just teaching them things like that is very important and going to help them in their career to not have those embarrassing moments, or moments where they're not able to get the buyer into the house and they possibly lose the transaction because of it. So you can add whatever tools that you use that you love in your business to what you're teaching the mentees to use. A few that I love, Real Estate Made Crystal Clear is a YouTube channel hosted by Dana Sparks. She teaches videos on pretty much any kind of contract issue that you can think of that may come up, and you can go to her channel, you can search the subject matter, pull the video up and watch that. So I use that a lot in my mentorships, especially when they have questions when they're working with a client that Dana explains very, very well, and definitely much better than I do. So that's one of my favorite tools to use. Using the monthly calendar on the eAgent website, that's where you go to find this CE class and any other CE classes that are offered. And it's important to check that every month because there's a ton of classes offered each month. And there's no mentee should say, I couldn't get the education. So just make sure you're pointing them in that direction. And then you have access to support in your brokerage. You have access to blogs. Your brokerage may have a Facebook private page. We have rock stars. There may be an agent on duty that's, the agent on duty actually is where you get leads by answering the phone. I think that we're moving to something different here, but if you have a program where they can do floor duty, make sure that they're plugging into that to get those leads. It doesn't cost anything, and except for their time, and it does put them out there with clients that are their warm clients because they're obviously contacting a real estate brokerage for a reason. They want to buy or sell, so that's a good place for them to get some leads right away. And really our main goal is to get them business, not to get them business, but for them to get business right away. So we need to be pointing them in the directions that they're able to get those leads. Some people can afford to pay for leads. Most people cannot. So they need to be digging into the ways that we can show them to get leads without having to pay the extravagant fees for them. So, okay, so here's the mentor program checklist that I use. These are just almost no-brainer type things that they need to make sure they do when they first get into the business to get set up. And I go over every single one of these with them. And then obviously you see there are extra boxes on there. And if you're looking at the checklist that's in the documents, it's a little bit different than this checklist. I haven't put it on the slide yet, but I add things to it, and you can add a ton of things to these just to make sure that you're covering them with your mentees. But simple things like ordering your business cards. You know, real estate agents are notoriously known for always having their business cards on them. And if you've gotten caught without them before, you know that that's one of the first things that you need to do is make sure you have your business cards. And ordering their name tags, it takes a couple of weeks to get those in. So if they're going to be working floor duty, or they're going to be showing houses, or they might be previewing new construction, going to the grocery store, if you want to wear your tag around everywhere that you go to try to drum up business and conversation, then they need to have those. Like I said earlier, getting their super key is one of the first things that they need to do. Making a personal brochure, and I'll tell you what I do with these. The next one on the checklist is their sphere of 100. The first task that I give a mentee is to write down their sphere of 100. And every time I get the answer, I don't know 100 people. Yes, you do. Everybody knows 100 people they can let know that they're in the business. So I tell them to write down their friends, their neighbors, their doctor's offices, their dentists, where they take their dog, the cashier that they usually go to at the grocery store. You know, there's people at church, people in groups that you attend if you're a member of like the JCs or, you know, somebody that's a member of the Shriners or things like that. You can come up with 100 people. And most of the time we're a little afraid. We have that fear in us of not wanting to approach those people. But as real estate agents, we have to be willing to approach people and let them know what it is that we do. So that's the first expectation I set, and I want them to have, we write that on their initial meeting record, and I want them to have 100 people by their second meeting. I want them to leave the excuses at the door. I want those 100 people written down. And not only do I want 100 people, I also want one avenue at least of contact. If they have their email address, phone number, and physical address, that's perfect. You're going to be able to do a lot with that. But if they don't have that, they need to have at least one avenue of contact, because they're going to make a personal brochure. That's the assignment that I give them, is I want their personal brochure. If you need some samples of those, I've got one that I did. You can also Google real estate brochures or real estate personal brochures, real estate introductory letters. That'll give them guidance in what to put in the letter, if they want to put their picture on it or not, how to design it, how to make it eye-catching, and then just set that up. I use Publisher and I use Word for a lot of mine, but whatever program they can set that up in, and get that personal brochure ready, printed in color, so that when they have their sphere of 100, they can save it as a PDF and email it. They can save it as a picture and text it. They can print it and send it to them like a handwritten note, and hand address the envelopes, because don't we all love to get a piece of mail that has handwriting addressed to us? And we go to the mailbox, we get out all of our mail, we flip through everything, and there's that handwritten one. So we take everything else and put it under our arm, and that's what we open, is the handwritten one. Everybody loves to get a handwritten note. So I get a lot of compliments on handwritten notes that I send. So it's a great avenue for them to let their sphere know, I'm in the business, here's my letter, this is what I'm doing, and I love referrals, whatever they want to say. So that's the first assignment. You don't have to do it that way, but I suggest that you do, because that does get them out in front of people right away. So their first task is the Sphere of 100. Their first assignment is to make their personal brochure. The next week when we meet, their assignment is to get that personal brochure out to those 100 people. I do have some mentees that come up with more than 100, and that's fantastic, but they need to have at least 100. And then after we go through that and they've sent out their personal brochure, and we're going through setting goals and making sure that they're reaching out to people to try and get business every week. Here in my office, we have a group that meets where we have to contact and have 45 two-way conversations every week. We have to give out at least 10 business cards every week. We have to write at least 10 handwritten notes every week. So I incorporate that into the mentor program so that they are also reaching out to people trying to get business into their funnel, into their pipeline. They need closings right away. So the best way to do that is to make sure they're doing the work to reach people, to let them know that they are in the business. So the next things that I start working on with them is their business plan and their goal setting. A lot of people get into this business and they want to get transactions, but they don't know how to go about it, and they don't really know what their end goal is. So we kind of end up going haphazardly at it. And I think the reason for that is that a lot of times people who get in this business have not ever been a manager or run a business or had to run the business for themselves. So setting up their business plan so that they know, this year, these are my goals, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is my unique selling proposition, this is my mission statement, this is what I want to do basically with my real estate life this year. Getting that written down and then setting your goals based on that, so that as you're working with them and as they're working after your mentorship is over, they know to reach this goal at the end of the year. When I read what it was I set for me to start on January 1st, when I get to December 31st and I read that, I know that I took all of these steps to reach that success, and I was able to gain success doing these things. Had to make adjustments here, and these goals I reached, these goals I didn't reach, and these goals I put aside because it wasn't really something I wanted, that's going to help them in their career for years and years to come, just by you helping them set up that business plan, that goal setting, and learning how to do that right off of the bat. It's also going to help you because in the mentorship with them, you have kind of a roadmap of what you need to be guiding them through in order to reach those goals, and you have the roadmap to accountability. This is what you said you were going to do. You said you were going to do it by this time. We're going to do this by then. You can hold them accountable for that because they're the only one that can keep them from reaching those goals. If they do the work, if they put themselves out there, if they are all in on their business plan and goals, then they'll find a way to make it work. So that's what I do with the third meeting. If they're staying on track with their first tasks and assignments, and then the second week their task and assignment, then the third week I'll start the business plan and goal setting. Sometimes I have to take the third week and make them accountable for not getting their spear together and stuff like that, and let them know that we can't move forward until they put the work into what they were supposed to do. So then I make sure after I've got their working their business plan with them and their goal setting and all of that, then the next week I come in and I make sure that they are accessing and taking the FMLS, Georgia MLS training, that there's a plethora of training on both of those websites. They can watch videos. They can take classes from FMLS and Georgia MLS. Right now, not in person, but when things get back to normal, they can actually go to the classes at those places and learn probably more than I know about using FMLS and Georgia MLS. But if they're going to be showing houses, those are tools they're going to have in addition to their super key. So that needs to be something they're working on pretty early in your mentorship. So once they have those few things under their wings and they're getting comfortable with their schedule, they're getting comfortable with working towards their goals and doing their weekly tasks and assignments, they're getting their education. Now you're assigning education classes to them, or they're telling you what education they're looking for, and you're helping them find the right classes that they need. You're writing that on there on your meeting record, and those things are rolling along really well. You need to start teaching them about website presence, social presence, branding, things of that nature. So whatever it is that you do to get yourself out in the world as being the expert in the field, or the representative that people want to do business with, then you kind of start guiding them in that. I have my people go on and usually we use GoDaddy because it's so easy, but there's a plethora of places you can purchase your URL from. So we'll start talking about a URL, what they want to purchase, what they want to say with their website. They need a website host, how they find that. If they're going to use a CRM that has the front office, which is their website with the RDocs feed already on it, and it has the back office, then we start talking about both of those things in conjunction with another, so that when they start setting up the CRM that they're going to use, they have their website, which is the front office, going, and they're putting the neighborhoods in it that they want to reach. They are putting the content on the website that they want people to see from them. And then on the back side of the office, they're getting their drip campaigns together. They're setting up how they want to classify their clients, if they're going to call them A leads, B leads, C leads, however that's going to work for them. So you start setting that up with them, because the sphere of 100 that they have, they now need to get that into a database, because they're going to have to start keeping up with, when did I reach out to them? How did I reach out to them? Did I get a response from them? So, and what are my next steps? So they can do that through their CRM. They can do that on a spreadsheet. They can do it in a Word document. There's a very successful agent in my office that uses his Google Calendar, and when he puts the next time he needs to call them or contact them, he keeps a record of what he's talked with them about. How are their grandkids doing? They've got somebody coming up that's going to graduate. So he asks about those things. So your mentee can get their spreadsheet or their database set up in whatever form they want, but since they got their Sphere of 100, that's one of the tasks that you need to start working on is getting their database in place, getting their website in place, and it may be their brokerage website that they get on. It may be the CRM website. They may have a whole lot more knowledge about technology than I have, and they just go to Wix and buy whatever website they want and do it themselves. So whatever they're going to do, they need to be working on that. And in case you don't know, Georgia MLS has a free website, so that'll be an easy way for them to get their web presence started, have something that they can share on social media, and start getting their name out to the public as being in the real estate industry. They would just go to Georgia MLS, somewhere on the page, I can't remember since they changed the home page. It may be under your profile. There's a place where you can personalize your website. It's important that your mentees are reading their orientation manual, so that's the next thing that I go to with them is making sure that they are not just the orientation manuals, the policies and procedures at your brokerage, and learning about what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, how you handle things, so that they come across these things, they're already versed in how the brokerage does that, and they know what to do about it. A lot of times people come into this industry, they've been in a totally different industry, and things work very differently in real estate, so they need to make themselves familiar with the way that the brokerage handles things. And here at our brokerage, we have an orientation class and a paperless pipeline training they get CE credit for that they have to attend. It's a requirement of the program. So once they got all of that set up, and you're probably now into, if somebody's really on it and they're doing their tasks and stuff, and you're not getting any excuses and they're not failing to do their homework each week, they're kind of going along with the program just as they should in a perfect world. You can move on to the next steps like their listing presentation, their buyer's consultation, working on objection handlers, setting up social media pages, recording videos, doing things of that nature that's going to put them more in the face of their potential clients. So as you work with them, just keep the ball rolling so that they are becoming more and more familiar with the ways that you get business. Now, I have this checklist. This is the way I do things. I want to tell you that each mentorship is different and each mentor is different. So the way you do business may be very different than the way I do business. And some of the mentors that I have in the program, they all do business a different way. So I may use one product that works great for me, but another mentor uses a different product that works great for them, and they love it and they want to teach their mentee how to use it. That's fine. Do what you know has made you successful. Teach them what has made you successful. These are the things that I have been successful in teaching my mentees to do, and for them to start getting business in their pipeline and get their business rolling. If you find that you want to add things to this checklist, or you don't like some of the things on this checklist, or you use something different than, you have something different. For instance, we have Vulcan 7. If you don't like Vulcan 7, but you like cold realty, or you like maybe you buy leads from realtor.com, or you go to different events, or you door knock, or whatever it is, be teaching your agents, your mentees, these things, whatever it is that's making you successful. The idea to the program is not to take you out of your comfort zone and have to teach them a bunch of stuff that you don't really know how it works. Is to take that mentee under your wing and teach them what's made you successful. So while I have this checklist, these are important things, but incorporate into that the things that I'm not covering that you have found have been successful for you. I love to have them get comfortable with BombBomb or another type of video program, video app. It's on your phone, it's easy to share, it's easy to upload it. And the market right now is going towards video marketing. So, the millennials love video marketing. And the statistics say that people do business A large majority of people do business with the first real estate agent they met. Well, maybe in my generation, we don't think watching a video is meeting somebody, but for the generation that's largely purchasing homes right now, watching a video of you, they feel like they just met you, and they consider that the first agent that they met face to face. So if I'm sending them a bomb video and I'm the first one that they're meeting, the likelihood of me getting their business is great. So I try to teach my mentees to use those type of programs. We'll video back and forth so that they start getting comfortable with it. It's silly, it's fun. You know, we all look at ourselves on video or hear ourselves and we think, oh, is that what I sound like, or is that what I look like? I need to fix this or fix that. No, you don't. Just be you. Teach them to be them. People are looking to do business with you just the way that you are, and people will look to do business with them just the way that they are. So if you go back and forth on some video chats, or sending videos to them saying, hey, you want to know what you're doing today? Tell me one thing you're doing with your family today, one thing you're doing to get a real estate client today, and one thing you're doing to clean your house today, and have them video you back on that. Just getting them comfortable with that type of communication. In your subsequent meetings, week 5, week 6, week 7, that's what you need to be doing is teaching them more and more the tools that you use in your business. It's going to make their life easier. I use the video app for things like a home that I just listed. And I'll video myself in front of the home, write my sign, tell them a little bit about the home, and then when I get a VoicePad call or I want to post it on social media, hey, I've got this great new listing that just came on, I can post that video on there, and it's going to entice people to want to get more information about that listing. That is going to help a new agent tremendously because they're almost desperate to get business. And if they'll take these steps and just go the extra mile to get the business, these steps that you're teaching them to do to get the business, then they'll be successful. And you will be successful as a mentor as well. So setting up their website, like I said, working on the buyer and listing consultation presentation, and then going through the contract class, which is part of the CE that I recommend that my mentees take. 3-hour contract class, 3-hour contract updates class, and then actually going through a contract. If they're kind of slow out of the gate and they don't have any business that seems like it's going to come right away, then I work with my mentees and I let them choose an address on MLS, and they'll be the buyer or I'll be the buyer, and we'll write a contract on it. We'll work on scripts, we'll work on how to show, we will work on what documents that you need for different types of homes. If it's in a community, then there's a community association needed, or sole property disclosure, lead-based paint. We go through all of those scenarios, and then I have them run comps. I have them get back to me on what they feel like the value of the home is. I'll enter a fake brokerage agreement with them. Obviously, everything's fake, and when I sign anything with them, my signature always says training purposes only. You can change your signature in e-sign to sign that. So just for my protection, I always do that. But I sign a brokerage agreement with them. We write an offer together. They present the offer to me as if I'm the listing agent, so that we can have that dialogue back and forth on teaching them how to do their negotiations, and go through the whole process of what it's like to get something under contract, and then what it's like to have to do contract close. If you already have your system set up for contract close, that's great, teach them that. If you don't, I have some checklists that you can use if you will let me know. I'm happy to share those with you. I've spent a lot of time developing them, and I add stuff to them every transaction that I do to make sure I'm not missing any of the steps. And I provide those to my mentees so that when they get their contracts, they know what they need to be doing to successfully navigate through that. And then if you hire somebody to do your contract to close for you, or your listing input or whatever, then once they have contracts under their belt, they may want to do that too. But they need to learn how to do the contract to close process during their mentorship so that they're not lost when they do get stuff under contract. So I spent a good bit of time going over that checklist, going over those steps. And if we're working on a fake contract and they actually get a contract going, then we'll put the fake contract aside and we'll work through the contract to close checklist together on their real contract. So for our brokerage and whatever your brokerage uses for document handling, I make sure that my mentees are adding me to the transaction as their co-agent so that I can see all of their documents and make sure that everything's being filled out correctly. When they write their contracts, you need to be their first source for here's the contract I wrote, what pitfalls do you see, did I miss anything, do any changes need to be made before they actually send that to the public and before they get it under contract and then there's issues with it. Hopefully you would have caught those first. So I do make sure that I'm copied on all of their documents and go through that with them and work through some scenarios with them. You have gone through a lot of transactions where lots of different scenarios have happened, and that'll be a good opportunity for you to bring up to them, this happened one time, so be aware of that. Make sure you put this in there because like the lead-based paint is very important. You make sure you're executing it correctly because the EPA frowns upon it not being correctly executed. So just going over those important things with them so that they don't later in their career learn that by making it oops. And then there's some classes that are offered through Georgia Real Estate Academy on business planning, lead generation. There's a millennial class. There's, I don't know if we still have the ultimate buyer and ultimate listing class or not, if they're available through Georgia Real Estate Academy. Those are awesome classes to take, two of my favorite classes, and how to wow your customers or VIP service for your customers. Those are also great for mentees to take because it gives them a lot of things they can do for their clients that they didn't realize that they should be doing because they're new and they're not really sure what to do, how to take care of them so that they're getting referrals and they're getting great reviews and things of that nature when a transaction is complete. So that's my checklist. I do add a lot of stuff to that depending on who the client or who the mentee is, based on where they are in their business and where they tell me they're wanting to go, what their goals are and things like that. I add things to it. You could probably send me a list of a lot of things I could add to this, and I'm happy to take those suggestions. But if you just use the checklist the way that it is, that's going to get you through probably the first 6 or 8 weeks of a mentorship. And hopefully by then they actually have some business in their pipeline. So you should have these documents in the documents on the Agent Web that Dana mentioned at the beginning of the class. This is the mentor program meeting record. This is at the bottom of my welcome letter that I give them at the first meeting. I'll fill this out that's the first one. And then there's a sheet in the documents where it has 3 of them on there. And I'll just make copies of that and we'll write on it each week. I'll give the mentee a copy of it so they have what they need to be working on, but I also have it in their file. So when we meet next time, I can make notes on what they did, what they didn't do, what worked, what didn't work, things we need to address a little better, and what are our next task assignment tool in education we're going to be working on. So I'll do that for every single meeting that we have. And then there's a transaction record that's in the documents as well. I use this for two reasons. One, when you're working with a lot of mentees and you have your own business going on, you can't remember who's done what transaction, if they worked with a buyer and a seller. And then I use it also to keep up with what my income is so that I can build that into my business plan. So I keep this transaction and I have my mentors keep the transaction report as well. Okay, so I think we're going through the text pretty quickly. It's 11 o'clock now. We're an hour in. So what I would like to know is what questions you have so far, if there's something that you would like for me to discuss a little more, and what questions you have about the program in general. So if you will type those in the chat, Dana is going to let me know what your questions are. We're going to try to answer some of those after the break. And then if we don't get to all of them, we'll try to answer some more of them. I think we're going to have some time at the end of the class because we are going through everything pretty quickly. So at the end of the class, we'll answer some maybe that I didn't answer after the break. So if you have something like a situational discussion, something that may have happened with somebody, a mentee maybe you've worked with, how would you handle this type of situation? Or if you have some issues that you have encountered with a mentee or mentor, how would you work through those things? I'm happy to answer how I would do it. And then what questions you have about the program in general. So write those in the chat and we'll get to answering those here after the break. So let's take a break. It is 11 o'clock, 11:01 now. I think it's a 15-minute break, so let's meet back here at 11:15. So y'all enjoy getting yourselves a cup of coffee, and I'll see you in 15 minutes.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. When you are coming back, please in the chat, type in your name, your email address, your real estate license number, and if you are attending via phone, we need your phone number too. We need all that information to give you CE credits. A couple of questions that have been coming in the chat. The handouts are available. There are a lot of them. They are available via hyperlink for you to download, including a PDF of Patty's PowerPoint presentation. If you go to www.eagentweb.com, and then you'll click on the tile that says training videos. And then once you click on that, you'll see Patty's class and hyperlinks to all of the handouts. So actually, let me show you guys what that looks like. And also, we will take any questions that you have. But hang on, let me show you. I'm going to share my screen for a minute. So when you go to this website, it's www.eagentweb.com. There's no password to get in there. And it's supposed to look like Windows 10. It did when Windows 10 first came out. Anyway, see this tile right here, training videos? So you go to eagentweb.com. You click on this tile that says training videos. And then you scroll down a little bit and you will see all of the CE classes offered through the Georgia Real Estate Academy. And here is Patty's class, Training the New Agent Mentor. And here are all the handouts. So when you click on one of these handouts, it will open up a PDF that you can download and use for your personal use. So wanted to show you guys that. Did I start? Yeah. Also, just want to answer, okay, Kiki Roy, when you guys are typing this in, we need all that information. And I know sometimes you hit the enter button trying to get to a new line, but we need your name. There you go. Email address, real estate license number. If you are attending via phone, we need your phone number as well. Again, CE credits will be recorded 3 to 5 business days after the class. It takes us a while to put all these reports together. Any specific questions for Patty?
Dana, I saw a couple on there. I think you answered the one about the copy of the presentation. They can get that on eAgent Web. The slideshow is there. Somebody asked if there was a class to learn how to list properties. I'm not sure if they're asking specifically how do you do a listing presentation, or if they're asking where you find listing leads. So I'll say a couple of things about that. If you ever, it'll be on the calendar, the Georgia Real Estate Academy calendar, the Ultimate Listing Presentation class. That class, I can't tell you enough how fabulous that class is. So if you get the opportunity to take that class, that's going to help you get listings. It's going to help you put your listing presentation together. And then if you're looking for ways to get listing leads, one of the places I tell my mentees to go, and I go there as well, is Tom Ferry. You can scroll through Tom Ferry's videos, and sometimes he'll have just a 3 or 4 minute video, and sometimes he's got 10, 15-minute videos on it. But getting listings on a budget, or how to farm a particular area, or if you want to increase your price range or increase your average price sell, how to go about getting those listings. So I can't remember who asked the question, but I wanted to answer it both of those ways to make sure that it was answered. If that does not answer your question, please type your question again in the chat and be more specific about what side of that you wanted to know the information on.
Patty, here's another question about scripts for agents. What do you do with scripts for agents? Do you have copies of them? How do you deal with your new licensees or an experienced agent who's just been out of it for a little while coming back?
Okay, So I am not a huge script person. I'm a dialogue person. I don't want to read a script to my client. So I teach my mentors and my mentees to have more of a dialogue than a script. But to do that, you have to have something to start with usually. So again, I use a lot of Tom Ferry. You can go on Google and just type in real estate scripts for listings, real estate scripts for buyers, whatever the script is that you're looking for, and you'll have thousands of them show up. So I just suggest you go on there and find one that you like that kind of meshes with your personality, and read through those scripts, pick them out, and then I always rewrite them the way that I would say things, and then it's more of a conversation. I'm not having to remember what it is that the paper said I was supposed to say. I'm saying, okay, this is what Patty would say in that situation, and now I have my dialogue, and I don't have to worry about, did I do my script right, or getting caught up on my words and stumbling around. It's just me. I mean, that's just my approach to life, is just to be me. So I approach my real estate business that way as well. If you want more structured scripts, though, Tom Ferry, Mike Ferry, he's fantastic too. Both of them have a plethora of scripts you can get for free.
And I will also interject that Mike Ferry, if you go to either tomferry.com or mikeferry.com, Mike is Tom's dad and has been a real estate coach for gazillions of years. He also offers, Mike Ferry was the original script guy. And he has scripts and objection handlers for everything. And I believe at this point, there are a ton of free scripts, free objection handlers if you go to Mike Ferry's website as well. There are a lot of third-party coaches. And like Patty said, if you Google real estate scripts or real estate objection handlers, you'll find a lot of stuff. And then you will also probably get inundated with different webinars and coaching opportunities, people who want to get your coaching business. But it's good for you. And earlier, what you said, Patty, about there were a lot of comments about why people want to be a mentor. And a lot of the comments I read were mostly they want to help. And, also one of my adages as an instructor is the teacher always learns more than the student. And I think we always learn more about our own real estate practice by helping someone else. And a lot of the other comments were giving back. Look, I've been in the business for a long time, and I still remember those agents. There wasn't a formal mentor program when I first joined, but I remember there were a couple of agents who were very, very helpful. And I still remember them to this day, and it's been over 25 years.
Yeah, same with me. I haven't been in it quite that long, but yeah, if I hadn't had the couple of agents that kind of took me under their wing when I started, I would have made a lot of mistakes. I made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, but I really needed them, and they were there for me, and I appreciated that. So that's important to me too. And hopefully this program helps those that desire to help others have a path and at least something that is structured to lead them to be able to do that. I appreciated all of the comments that you made that were about helping others, and the kind of things that you said about what we've discussed so far. Thank you for that. That's encouraging.
Patty, there's another question about a class about farming.
Okay, so the information that I got on my farming that I have started, I got from Tom Ferry and from Mike Ferry. I know I keep going back to them. There's plenty of others. I can't think of any of the other names right off of the top of my head. Buffini is one, but doing my farm, I went through the process that Mike Ferry walks you through and Tom Ferry walks you through, and you can watch those short videos, and then you can Google a lot of stuff about how do you go about farming. And I'll tell you what I did for my farming. That was part of what I was going to show later in the video, where I'm going to show you my introductory letter and tell you what I did with it and how I'm taking additional steps and how I teach my mentees to do that as well.
Awesome. Also, just to go back for a minute for the lead-based paint, because that's for everybody. If you list a house or you are working with a buyer buying a house that was built prior to 1978, it is an EPA requirement, federal requirement, that the buyer, number one, has that EPA lead-based paint pamphlet, and number two, has that GAR EPA lead-based paint exhibit where the seller is disclosing any potential knowledge or lack thereof of lead-based paint in their home. The EPA federal mandate is that they have that information prior to going binding in a contract. So if you are a listing agent and the house was built prior to 78, some brokerages have a policy that they want that lead-based paint on everything. So check with your broker on that if that is a policy. If you're a listing agent, you need to have the seller fill out those forms, and you need to have that lead-based paint exhibit. It's GAR brochure CB04. I don't know what the number is for the RE forms, or you can go to www.epa.gov and you can find that same lead-based paint pamphlet, because the GAR form is just the EPA form. You need to make those forms available to any potential buyer. So put them up on FMLS. We can make documents available. If you get an email from an agent that they've got a client interested in the property, send them that stuff signed out. But when you take a listing, before you put it on FMLS, you really need to have the seller fill out those forms. Missing signatures and initials, if the EPA investigates, I think it's actually gone up to $12,000 or $17,000. I don't remember, but that much money per missing initial or signature. So that's not an E&O lawsuit that you're going to get covered with. That is an issue. So that was that since the EPA came out. Any other questions before Patty gets started back? Again, if you guys type in your questions in the chat, I will make sure that Patty addresses them either throughout the presentation or at the end. Before I hand the controls back to Patty, again, I want to thank you guys so much. I am going to launch a poll. And what that is the course evaluation. You know, like when you go to a CE course, you have to fill out a course evaluation. It is anonymous, but we're doing it virtually via a poll. So you will see the poll pop up on your screen. There are 5 questions. If you only see a couple, you'll have to scroll down until you get all the questions. You won't be able to hit the submit button until you have answered all 5 questions. And after you have answered the questions, that poll will go away. I'm going to leave it up from now through the end of the course. If you have issues with it, that's fine. In the previous classes we've taught, we do have some agents that have had issues with it. That's okay. I can't relaunch it after I launch it once or I lose all the information. Found out that the hard way. So again, I just want to thank everybody. And Patty, you're doing a great job. And just to reiterate, we have agents on here from all brokerages. So some of the specifics might be different from one brokerage to another, but I think the core essence of helping a new licensee get started in this amazing business is what, focus on that from Patty. And as you guys all know, pre-license school and the test in no way prepare an agent for the actual practice of real estate. So there is a huge need to give back to those agents who are joining our amazing industry. And the better trained and the better knowledgeable the anybody is, it helps all of us as our reputation and keeps our industry strong. So I'm going to launch the poll, and then Patty, I'm going to hand. Oh no. Polling session is active. Oh no. All right, I gotta hang up from here.
Dana, while you're doing that, I'll go ahead and talk about, I wanted to circle back to where new mentees are going to get their sphere of 100. So coming into the business brand new, that's the first thing that my very first broker, I chose a broker who had no training, who was for experienced agents only, And because I was an entrepreneur and ran my own business, he was like, okay, you're a good fit for us. And he took me on. You know, we had a nice little split there. So he enjoyed the business I did while I was there with him. So he said, hey, get your sphere of 100. And I was like, oh, okay, of course I'll do a sphere of 100. And I go home and I'm talking to my husband. I'm like, I have no idea, what is a sphere of 100? And where do I get it? And what do I do with it? So now I know, it's been years later, and I know that great sources of your sphere, a lot of people are reluctant to talk to their family. I guess it comes from that fear that we have of failure, or fear that they won't do business with us, and sometimes they won't. So maybe that's a little bit legitimate, but get rid of the fear, contact your family, contact your friends, friends. Like I said, your doctors, your dentists, your church members, your the cashier at the grocery store. I'm trying to think of all the people, like the person who sold your car to you. Fantastic person to have in your sphere, because if you'll send him some more business, you know, just tell, this is the guy that I bought my car from. Every person that comes in there that says, we're buying a car, but I have to wait until we buy a house or whatever, if they mention a house at all, that salesman is going to, because he's full commission too, he's going to share your name. I just bought a new car, and that truly happens. So every person that you come in contact with, that's who you need to be telling about real estate. So there's an agent, I think she's in this class actually, that pointed out to me, and I've added that into my program, that when you're out at the grocery store, shopping, Home Depot, restaurant, whatever, simply giving somebody your card, that's a great thing. You've made that contact, they now know you're in real estate. But what did you gain from that at that moment? Well, I gave them my card, and I know their name is Samantha, but I don't have a single avenue of contact for that person. So if your mentee, and if you are already prepared to say, here's my phone, this is my app, if you'll put your information in there, that'll give me, I can send you my electronic business card. So that's going to give you an avenue of contact. Usually it's going to be a cell phone. Of course, I always say, do you mind if I send you something? So just being creative about the ways that you try to get the information from the person. It's not just giving your business card out, it's adding to your sphere. Some people call it feeding your sphere. So here's my business card, or what is your name, or let me send you my electronic business card, and having that one avenue, that's adding a person to your sphere. I worked with a broker who had a very successful team one time. I went to one of her team meetings, and she was telling them her team members had to feed their database with 5 new contacts every single day. So if you're helping them set goals like that, if you added 5 people to your database every single day, that's 25 people in a 5-day work week. And if statistics are right, and you have to talk to approximately 100 people to get a client, then your mentee is potentially going to get a client within that month. So that's a great way for them to start their business off and get the money rolling in. And the other thing I wanted to mention was, people coming into the business, they've spent a lot of money on their class, on their license, if they joined a board. You know, it's not a cheap business to get into. So they don't always necessarily have income to spend on postage and envelopes and color prints and stuff like that. So the more stuff they can do electronically, the better off they will be. I encourage my mentees to do farming, but I've got 3 examples we'll go over of mentees that I've worked with, and we'll talk about the different ways that they have been doing business, because one has a nice budget, one has a little bit of a budget, and one has no budget at all. And if you'll look up on Google, it's Tom Ferry again, but he has a class or a little video he does, and I forget what it's called, but you can Google, I think it's marketing on a shoestring budget or something like that he talks about, and that'll give your mentees almost 40 different ways that they can get people into their sphere with no expense at all, or very minimal expense anyway. So We'll get back to it now.
All right. I cannot launch the poll. I'm not sure why. I don't know what the reason is. When you go to eagentweb.com, there is a handout. There is an actual physical course evaluation in Microsoft Word to make it easy for you to fill out. It'd be awesome if you guys could fill that out. And I am going to type in the chat the email address to send that back to. And again, I apologize, Patty, that I don't know why it's not working, but we are going to get back to the course, and I am going to hand the controls back to Patty. So I'm going to make her the host so that you can share your screen. And again, everyone, please type in your name, email address, real estate license number, and if you are attending by phone, we also need your phone number in addition to all that information. All right, Patty, making you the hostess with the mostest.
Hostess with the mostest, thank you. Well, it's taking a second to come up. There you go. Okay, so a lot of teaching a mentee what to say and helping yourself with your dialogue is to do role play. So in subsequent meetings, I do have them bring in possible situations or conversations that they had, or they'll text me and say, hey, I met this person, this is what they want, what should I say? I got this lead, I've got a call, what should I do? So we'll go over criteria like that. So doing role play with them, I'm sure that you have done that where you present your listing presentation to a fellow agent or your spouse or friends or family or whatever. So it's important that you do that with them as well. So this is a little more about what happens when someone joins our brokerage. You may be mentoring in your brokerage through a formal mentor program. You'll have to check with your broker on how that works. You may just be wanting to mentor somebody along that you know that's wanting to come into the business, and you're going to help them, and you just wanted some structure on how to do that. This is the way I do the program here at Maximum One. If you have any questions about that, of course, let me know. But if you are working in a structured mentor program in your brokerage, please make sure that you're checking with your broker or whoever heads up your program to make sure you're doing the right things there. I'm not instructing you on how to do your program anywhere else. This is just the way that I do it here. So we covered the initial meeting in person when possible. Plan for about an hour each time. They can get very lengthy if you don't put a time limit on them. Sometimes you'll, as you go later on in the meetings, they might be shorter meetings because you might have a mentee that's just like doing everything they're supposed to be doing right on time. The meetings are quick and they're back out pounding the pavement to get business. And then there might be some that have a little more fear to them. And so they need that extra reassurance and the meetings start to last a long time. So I set the expectation up front that our meetings are going to be about an hour. And so I'll try to stick with that so it doesn't just draw out through the whole day. Again, this is just reiterating setting your expectations, going over the mentor agreement with them first, very, very important. Go over your program checklist, listen to their expectations and concerns. I didn't mention this earlier, but a mentee is coming into this sometimes expecting that you're going to give them business, that you've got a buyer or seller for them to work with immediately, that they're getting a paycheck on Friday, that you're going to be right there with them, holding their hands, taking them on your appointments or going on their appointments with them. While I do suggest that you have them tag along with you on a listing appointment and a buyer appointment when you get more comfortable with them, my mentees don't go on every appointment with me, and I don't go on every appointment with them. Now, if they have a listing presentation and they want me there for support, I will go. We need to set that expectation up, though, because I don't want a mentee to come into the program and feel very dissatisfied with the service they got when I feel like I'm doing an excellent job and we have an excellent program, that they thought that business was going to be provided to them or leads were going to be provided to them. So make sure that you know what their expectations are. Put your plan together. That's your first meeting and starting on your task assignment tool in education. Write it down. Make sure they get a copy of it. Make sure that they're making their notes on there as well. If they have certain steps that they're going to take, keep a record of that so that you can hold them accountable for it. And before the end of every single meeting, schedule your next week's meeting. Because what will happen is you don't schedule the meeting. I meet my mentees on Monday. If by the end of the meeting on Monday we haven't scheduled for the next week, then it's like pulling teeth trying to draw them back in. And I'm not going to make them work in the mentorship. They have to want to put in as much effort as me. So if we already have that expectation scheduled that we're meeting next Monday at 10 a.m. or whatever it may be, then that's going to run a lot more smoothly and be a lot less headache for the mentor. So in your subsequent meetings after that initial meeting, you're listening to their questions and concerns and going over the things from the last meeting that they were supposed to work on. And if there was in the interim any questions that they had that you were getting more information on or finding an answer for them that maybe you needed to verify, you're providing that to them then. Make sure that those questions get answered and don't just kind of fall off the wayside. I'll say it again, I can't say it enough. Hold the mentee accountable. Because when you get 6 or 8 months into this mentorship and they haven't closed a transaction yet, and they're saying, okay, my spouse is angry with me because I'm not doing any business or bringing any income in, or I can't pay my bills and I've got to go get a job at, delivering pizzas or whatever. You want that situation already set up that I've been holding you accountable for the work that you're supposed to be doing. They can't blame that on you. Although people like to blame, and they may try to blame that on you, but if you've been holding them accountable, either one, that never happens. And they don't have to worry about they didn't bring any income into their household and they're having to go get a second job. Or you can say, you remember at this meeting I told you to do this and you didn't do it, and this is how I hold you accountable. So it just helps in setting the expectations and then dealing with any conflict later on in the relationship. So on my I call it the Tate, on my Tate, I always say, this is your task and this is when it's due. So if it's something that's going to take them 2 or 3 weeks to get through, I'm not going to make it due the next week. Now, if we write down 3 or 4 steps, like this is first step, second step, third step, first step I want done by next week. The second step, it's going to take you 2 weeks to do, so we're going to do that 3 weeks from now. So I'll make sure to set those up so that I can hold them accountable and so that we are making progress and we're checking our progress. And it's important to make adjustments. If you see that this person is very capable of doing these tasks and they're getting them done quicker, we can adjust our timeline. Some people don't have the same set of skills that person that's quick about it has, and they need a little more time. So you will be able to pay attention and make those adjustments. This is not a cookie cutter program. This is an individual, meet them kind of where they are type of program. So be ready to make those adjustments and be prepared for that. Again, do you have any questions about anything we haven't yet discussed? I'll always open that up. And then in the subsequent meetings, you're going to set your meeting for the next week as well.
Patty, there was a question about, do you have the personal back to the personal brochures? How do they do those? What programs? Is there a company that perhaps does those?
Yeah, so real quick, let me minimize this and show you mine. What I did is went on Google and just I researched real estate introduction letters, and then I found something that I liked and I kind of laid mine out. This is what mine looks like. I like it because it's clean and crisp and it draws your attention or whatever. I'm going to show it to you on the screen. And then I signed it in blue ink, and then I hand address the envelopes. So I'm licensed in Georgia and Florida, so I did one for each state. So here's my one for Florida. It's a little more of a fun picture, not as serious, a beach house. And then I lay these out on Word. I just use Word. You can use Publisher. You can use whatever program that you're used to using as your word processor. So that's the one I did for Florida. And then the one for Georgia, this is my regular headshot, and just a picture of a house that I zoomed in on and cropped it. Want to be pretty nondescript about the house I use. I didn't want it to be like a house I've sold and I'm putting my client's picture up there. And what I do for graphics like this house, is I go to a website called Pexel, P-E-X-E-L, Pexel.com, and there are all kinds of photos on there that you have a free license to use commercially. So photographers just share those photos. You don't have to ask them for permission to use them. You can crop them. You can put them in, like if I was going to make a setting or whatever, I could use this house and add pictures to it if I wanted to put people in the lawn or ball or any of that. You can get that off of Pexels, combine the photos, and not have to pay any kind of licensing fee. So that's what I use for the graphics that are here on the brochure. And then I love different kinds of fonts. So there's a free font provider called Font Squirrel, like squirrel, the animal squirrel. And you can go on there and download, there's thousands and thousands of fonts. So I downloaded those into my computer so that I have more fonts than just what Word had to offer. So this is what this one looks like. And what I did with these is I decided on the price range I wanted. I decided on the area I wanted. And I went into Remine. That's an FMLS. I don't know if you've ever used Remine before, but you can get whole subdivisions, addresses, and like their owners, the owners' names, their addresses. You can find out all kinds of information about them there, how long they've been in the house, you know, if there's any kind of foreclosures in that subdivision, things of that nature. And I took the letter and, like I said, hand signed it, printed it in color. This is nice, thick business paper. It's linen. I got some linen envelopes, put it in there, hand addressed them, and sent them to my farm. With that, and the reason that I did this, let me go back, is being a mentor is very challenging. You have to really be on your game when you're a mentor because you're teaching somebody else to use systems and processes and stuff that you may not be using in your business at all. And if you're not, and they have a question about it, you got to know how to answer those questions. So if I'm telling somebody how to use FMLS or Remine or RDocs or transaction desk or whatever, and I don't know how to use it myself, I'm going to kind of get caught like a deer in the headlights. So before I tell my mentees something to use, I make sure I go there and at least have an understanding of how it works. So in training my mentees to use part of their budget to farm an area, I started farming an area too, which I had been farming, but I wanted to step my game up because I wanted to increase my average price and I wanted to be in these certain subdivisions. So I set my farm up, did my handwritten letter, and then set up my follow-up steps so that when I told my mentees to set up their campaigns, I already knew what I was doing and could guide them in how you set up additional steps in your campaign. So I hope that's helpful. And if y'all want a copy of this, my email address is in the chat. It's mx1mentor@maximum1.pro. If you want a copy of this, just email me and let me know. Anything else that you wanted from the class or you have a question about, you can email me there as well, and we'll put it in the, thank you, Dana, for putting it in there again. She just put it up in the chat.
Patty, will you please share those two resources again, the one for the fonts and the other resource that you mentioned as well?
Yes, so for the graphics, And it's not just graphics of homes. You can put in sunset, and there'll be sunset photos you can use in a commercial capacity without having to pay for a license. It's Pexel, Pexel.com. Pexel.com. Might be Pexels, Pexels. Let me check real quick if it's got an S on it. I use that for any kind of graphics that I need. And my husband has a business too, and I use it for the graphics for his advertising as well. It is not Pexel, it must be plural. Bear with me while I check. It is Pexels, Pexels.com, Pexels.com. And then on the fonts, I use Font Squirrel, F-O-N-T, and like squirrel, the animal. And you can go there. There's a little process to getting it to show up in Word, but they give you all the instructions. You go there and search through the different fonts, choose the one you want downloaded, and then it'll tell you how you get it to show up in Microsoft. If you want a particular font, my husband sells t-shirts along beach highways, and he wanted a highway sign font. And so we just Googled what's a highway sign font, found out what it looked like, went into Font Squirrel, typed that in, and it came up with one that was similar to it. So you can find all kinds of, you know, these t-shirts you see that use 5 different fonts on them that may have like a saying from one of our favorite songs from the 80s or whatever. You can do your advertising like that, and it kind of draws, it's very Pinteresty, draws your eye to it. So are they expensive? Are what expensive? The photos, most of them are free. If you click on one that is a pay photo, it'll tell you before you download it that you have to pay for it. Usually at the top are all of the free ones. And when you scroll down and you start seeing a little tab on there of the website that the graphic comes from, you'll know that those are the ones that you have to pay a fee for. If you talk about Font Squirrel, I've only downloaded free fonts. I haven't seen any on there that I have wanted that cost any money. Okay. Okay, so on the newly licensed agent mentor program, I have a video series. So what happens is I keep in touch with the mentor and the mentee during the program to make sure that everybody's needs are being met, that if they have any questions about the program, I can answer them, and basically that everybody's kind of following along on the same program so that across the board, all the mentees are getting the same excellent service from the mentor that they're working with. So when a new mentee gets signed up with Maximum One, our brokerage, I send out a welcome video to welcome them to the program, and tells them a little bit about what the program is, what they can expect, how to get in touch with me, things of that nature. And I also at the same time send out a video to their mentor to say, basically, thank you for being a mentor. This is something that you really have to have a passion for, that you really, you do make some money off of it, but you put a lot of sweat equity into it, helping these mentees, and I invest myself in them. I want to see them be successful. So I send that video out and then recap what's been taught in the class as to what the initial meeting is supposed to be, setting expectations, making sure they're introducing them to the way that they do things and things of that nature. And I also send out a more detailed video to the mentor about what the first meeting needs to be about. Go over all those things that we just talked about before the break that that you need to cover in the first mentor meeting, and then open the question up. Is there anything we didn't cover that you have a question about, and setting the appointment for the next meeting. And then I send out, after that meeting is scheduled to happen, I'll send out a subsequent mentor meeting video, just reminding them of the things that need to take place in the following meetings, and holding the mentee accountable, and continuing on with their meetings each week until the mentee has graduated from the program. And when I say graduated from the program, usually that means they've completed their 3 transactions in the program that I do. That's a buyer, a seller, and one of either a buyer or a seller. When they've completed those 3 transactions, they would usually graduate. I did have a mentee that came in. She was hot. She had business in her funnel. She had her sphere going. She was really on fire, and immediately got 2 transactions under her belt. And then within a couple of weeks had a 3rd transaction going. So we finished her transactions relatively quickly, but we still had this whole checklist of things that we had to do. So I worked with her for several more weeks past that before she actually graduated the program, because even though she had the transactions under her belt, which is really our main goal, is to get them transactions in the beginning of developing their business, I felt like she still needs all of that plethora of information we haven't covered to continue her business. I wanted that to snowball for her. I didn't want it to just stall out. So we continued to meet, and we finished going through all of the information, and then she graduated from the program. So if you're working with somebody who does that, who has 3 transactions really quickly, I encourage you to keep meeting with them, even though in my situation, the 3 transactions was what I was getting paid on, the mentor fee. Excuse me. Those weeks that I worked with her after that, I wasn't getting paid any additional money, but I already got paid for what I'm supposed to get paid for with her. I needed to provide the rest of my service to her. So we continued on, and I would do that with all, and she still comes back to me. That particular mentee still comes back to me when she has any questions, or she's working through something particularly difficult. She comes back and asks me questions or gets my help. And as we talked about in turn, I learn a lot from the situation she's in, or how she's handled something, or a document that she used when I would have used a different document. It makes my thinking go, okay, that was appropriate, and now I have another avenue to handle a situation. So I enjoy doing those things, and I enjoy keeping in touch with my mentees so that I'm still getting that education, learning those things that they're learning as well. Okay, so in my program, as I mentioned at the beginning, we also have an experienced agent mentorship. It's a mentorship we do for 1 transaction. It is for an agent who, they may have had their license for 15 years, but maybe the last 5 years they haven't practiced, or maybe it's been 10 years, or 3 years ago they put their license in a holding company and only did referrals. Well, you and I both know how much GAR documents have changed in the last 5 years, much less the last 10 or 15 years. So they're not really up on the documents. The way we do real estate with all of technology, social media, everything being an e-sign, all of those things, sometimes agents aren't up on because they did their CE classes, but they really didn't keep up with the industry. So we have a 1 transaction mentorship for an agent that hasn't really been practicing and hasn't closed any transactions, at least in the last year. And then it's 1 transaction, doesn't matter if it's a buyer or a seller. These are the splits that we do in my program. You'd have to go to your broker or whatever program that you're doing for how the financial part of that works. And then the checklist is the same, and setting the expectations and doing the meetings are pretty much the same. You go through the same initial meeting as you would with the new mentee, and set up your first tape, your first tool, assignment, task, and education, and then set that next meeting up and all of those same things. What I have found with the experienced agent is that I meet with them less frequently. They don't need me as much. So they're going through their checklist. They're pretty much have been in the real estate industry already. So they know that they have to do all these checklist things like ordering their business cards, their name tags and all of that sort of stuff. Then they get to the super key, and when they worked in real estate, they had this little box that they carried around with them that you would point towards the box and pop it open. So you might have to train them a little bit on some technology. They have a smartphone, but maybe they don't know how to use it or don't know what an app is or whatever. Showing them how things have changed in that nature are very important. And then the way that agents 10, 15 years ago did their sphere or did their marketing and stuff has changed a lot. So I go through a good bit of that with my experienced agents. And then go through the same type of checklist. It's just very much more relaxed. I do hold them accountable. And trust me, they hold me accountable too, because they've been in this business before. And so they want to make sure that what I say that I'm doing or giving them, that they are getting, and they're really holding me accountable, and they're smart. So I have to really be up on my game. I learn a lot from my experienced agents. Sometimes I think they teach me more than I teach them. So I appreciate that, because it in turn helps me help the new agents. So I do go through that checklist with them. I will say on this one though, that by the time they finish their first transaction, if we haven't finished this checklist, they usually are pretty comfortable going forward and completing the checklist themselves. They're okay with that. So mainly what the experienced agent transaction is for is to make sure they understand the documents that they haven't used in a while, make sure that they understand if laws have changed, or you know, the way the brokerage handles things have changed, and just getting their feet wet again, getting back into the game, so to speak. I do kind of let them guide where we go with this mentorship. I have the checklist and I have the processes of things that I offer to them. If they want to delve into pretty deep into the CRM, we have Chime here at Maximum One. If they want to dive deeper into that, that's the thing that's most important with them, then I'll spend more time working on that tool with them. If they want to understand how Vulcan works, or teach me how to use the text words on VoicePad or things of that nature, then I'll dive into those tasks with them really quickly at the beginning of the mentorship, because we're going to have less time together most likely. So I'll let them dictate maybe a little bit more of where we go. Whereas on the new agent, I'm more structured about, you have to do these things first, because the first thing that we have to do is get business into your pipeline. So the experienced agent usually has a pipeline that they're already working with. I hope that makes sense. What is the process at Maximum One? At Maximum One, this is kind of the flow of the way things work. A new licensee joins Maximum One. I'm notified by our agent services coordinator or by one of the brokers that we've got a new agent that is required to be a mentee. I contact that mentee, I have a conversation with them, kind of talk about where they are, what they expect out of a real estate career, learn their personality as much as you can over the phone or by video chat. And after that conversation, I talk with, I'm not sharing my screen. Y'all haven't seen any of these slides? Hold on, please. Difficulty. Let me go back so y'all can see the screens that I was talking about. I am so sorry. All these cute little slides you didn't get to see. Okay, so that's talking about the videos that I send out to the mentee. There's one, and then there's 3 that I send out to the mentor. Yes, ma'am?
Patty, this slide is the last slide that we saw, and then we went to the pixels and the font thing, and so this is where we were when the share screen stopped.
Did y'all see the introductory letter?
That you held up, yes.
You didn't see the ones I put on the screen?
No.
Well, I'll put those on the screen at the end then. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so you said you saw this slide, right? Okay. We talked about the expectations and it being a little bit different with the experienced agent. And then the checklist, it pretty much looks the same. And then this is where I was explaining what the process is. In this slide, cute, y'all want to see that one. So anyways, I went through the new licensee joins, the director's notified, I talked with the mentee, and then I consult with what I call the Maximum One royalty. I consult with the broker, the compliance brokers, just to find out if if I feel like the mentor is a good fit for this particular mentee, then I contact the mentor that I have selected and have a conversation with them. If they feel like it's going to be a good fit for them, then we'll move forward with the process of them signing an agreement. I will say in this step, I do recommend that the mentor and the mentee have a phone conversation, and when they can, meet in person. I'd love for them to come into the office, excuse me, and meet face to face. And then they decide that they want to work together. They will sign the mentor agreement, and that's after the mentor agreement is sent, I get a copy of it. That's when I start sending out the videos and contacting them. So once my mentor has received word from me that the mentor agreement is signed and everything is a go, they're supposed to contact the mentee to set up their first meeting within 48 hours. I say that because somebody who signs up with a brokerage, they are ready to go and hit the ground right now, and you need to strike while the iron is hot. So if you wait days and days and days and days, then they can become discouraged and less motivated. So I want to go ahead and within that first 48 hours and get the meeting on the books, and within that first week have that meeting. So then the ball is rolling, they're getting their videos, and hopefully they're starting to do their task of getting their spear together. So during that process, I will stay in contact with the director and the mentee. I mean, with the, yeah, I'll stay in contact with the director, that's me. I'll stay in contact with the mentor and the mentee to make sure that things are going smoothly. Also, if there's a closing, I make sure that I am sending a congratulatory email, reminding them how many transactions they have left before they graduate, you know, just kind of commending them on the progress they have made thus far. Okay, the forms. These are what you should have on the link at eagentweb.com under the training videos. There's a hyperlink to the PDF that Dana shared in the chat with you for the forms. So the forms that I use the my initial letter, which is the mentor program introduction that I allow them to read at the first meeting, and then I put their first task, tool, education, and assignment on there. I may not have updated that yet, but it's task, assignment, tool, and education, and any questions that I'm supposed to be answering for them by the next meeting. So I use that one, and then the meeting record. I use that each time that we meet, and by the end of the meeting, the next box will be filled out with the date, time, and location of our next meeting. And then I use the checklist. I print that for every file. You should have one that is called the Apprentice Mentee Guidelines, I think is what it's called. And it's just a mentor checklist you can use in your initial meeting to say, these are the things we're going to cover in the mentorship. And then as you cover them, checking them off so that you know where you are and you make sure you're covering everything. Another one of the forms I have is the apprentice agent or the new agent password list, because they're going to have a ton of passwords when they first join a brokerage. We put them all in one place so that they can easily get to all of the information that they need. And then I have the same type of documents for the experienced agent. And I have the mentee transaction sheet that I use. I use the same sheet whether it's experienced or new agent, and just fill out the appropriate boxes. I also have, and I may not have included in the documents, but I have a certificate that I give them when they graduate. It may sound a little silly, but when a mentee has gone through this process and this program, getting that certificate means a lot to them, and I love giving it to them. So usually at the sales meetings that we have, I try to give it to them in person. So things to remember about the program that we have at Maximum One. You may have some more things like this in your brokerage if you're not with Maximum One, but in this program, every agent who wants to be a mentor will be considered. That doesn't necessarily mean that every agent is going to be a mentor, because there are many factors that fit into the program. I don't guarantee a mentorship, but in the very least, you learned about the program and you got 3 hours of CE. And if you're matched with a mentee, then that's just kind of icing on the cake. If you bring an agent to our brokerage, it doesn't guarantee that they're going to be your mentee. What I see a lot of times is somebody brings somebody in, a friend or a past client joins, and they want to be their mentor, but they haven't been through the training yet, or they haven't been an agent long enough, so they don't have enough experience. You know, things of that nature would make it not a good fit. So the program director, which is me at this time, I'm always a mentor. I'm always a resource for the mentor or mentee. Any questions, any issues, anytime they want to meet together to get more input, any of that kind of stuff, I'm here to support my mentors and my mentees anytime you need me. And then here at Maximum One, we use paperless pipeline. So when you start a new transaction or your mentee starts a new transaction, they must add their mentor and the director of the mentor program to the transaction as a co-agent, so that we can look at their documents before they send them to the public. We can check their documents and make sure that they're not missing anything. We can make sure that they are doing the things on their checklist so that their transaction is compliant and they can get paid. You know, we can communicate through that transaction by sending each other notes and emails and documents and stuff like that. So it's important that we're all added onto the transaction and kept in the loop in paperless pipeline here at Maximum One. In our program, and I don't know if all brokerages do this, again, refer to your brokerage program. We have a retainer fee. It is $500, and what happens is if the mentee does not complete the mentorship, the $500 would be given to the mentor who put the time in with them. But if they do complete the transactions, then the $500 is credited back to them on their final transaction. And it is up to the mentor to make sure that the mentee pays this money. Not all mentors make the mentee pay a retainer fee, and I can see both sides of that. So one side of it is I don't want to put my time in and them not, the mentee not do what they're supposed to do, and they end up not making it in the industry. They don't do any transactions. I never make a dime on it, and I've spent all of these hours and I did it all for no pay. That's one side of it. The other side of it is the mentee's just getting in the business. It's expensive to become a realtor and set up. You're not just becoming a realtor or a real estate agent. You are starting a business, and it's costly to start a business. It's costly to become an entrepreneur. So they're having to pay for a lot of things already. And maybe you have a bleeding heart. Maybe you're not concerned about the money. Maybe your compensation is that you are giving back to people around you, and that's pay enough. And you don't want them to have to pay that $500 fee. That's okay. That is completely up to the mentor at Maximum One, but is also the mentor's responsibility to make sure that the mentee pays Maximum One the retainer fee if they so choose to have it. Now, if you choose not to have it and at a later date decide you want it, you can't. It has to be collected at the beginning of the mentorship. The expectation has to be set by the mentor up front. And you cannot say later on, I feel like this is not going well, I want them to pay the retainer fee. It doesn't work like that. So I don't collect them myself. I did sadly lose a mentee. Gosh, it's been probably 4 or 5, maybe even 6 months ago. One that I thought was extremely promising, and I really was pouring a lot of work into her. And then just one day she sent me a message after she missed her mentee meeting and said, I meant to email you, I am not going to do real estate. And then she moved from our brokerage to another one, and she's not pursuing a career in real estate. And that took a little bit out of my sales because I do pour into people so much. Totally her decision, and that's fine. You make whatever decision is best for you. But had I been one of the mentors that wanted to be paid for my time and was going to be upset about that, I should have collected that $500 retainer fee at the beginning. So just so you understand what the repercussions of that can be, of collecting it or not collecting it. So the resolution process, we all know that everybody is different. We have differing opinions, and sometimes relationships just are not going to work. But I'm going to make every effort that I can to have the relationship work out. So if you have an issue with a mentee, or a mentee has an issue with a mentor, then their responsibility is to notify me immediately of the issue. You can't wait 3 months and then come to me and say, well, we had this issue at the beginning of the relationship and it hasn't gotten better. Well, now it's 3 months of repair work that we have to go through. So I need to know immediately what the issue is. And it may be that you want more information about doing a listing presentation and they're not giving it to you. Maybe they don't have a listing presentation or know how to do that. I can help with that. I have a plethora of resources for that. So I'm here to help. That's an easy one to solve. It may be that you have a personality conflict. It may be that the mentor's not providing what the program dictates, or the mentee's consistently not putting in the effort and then being argumentative because they're not getting any business. Whatever those issues are, I need to know about them immediately. And then I'm going to require that the mentee and the mentor meet to talk between two adults about what the issue is and to try to come up with a plan to work the issue out. If it's just such an issue, which I just had recently that Dana and I worked through, if there's an issue that cannot be resolved, there's, like I said, it's a personality conflict, or, I mean, my daughter is like this. She's a realtor and she's a millennial and she thinks and speaks very differently than I do. So when we have a conversation, sometimes I had one conversation and she had another. So when she comes to me and she says, but you told me this, I'm like, that's not at all what I said. Have you ever had those conversations with somebody? They go on constantly in my house. And so we have to stop and say, okay, when you said this, what did you mean? Because this is what I took. So we need to sit down when we have a conflict. The mentor and mentee need to sit down together and try to resolve those issues. If it's unresolvable, then I need to have communication with both parties. I need to find out what's the crux of the issue. Is it something that I can address and help you work out? Is it something that can't be worked out? Is it, do I need to reevaluate the mentor? Do I need to reevaluate the mentee? Do I need to reassign the mentee? What kind of resolution can we find? If after I have met with both of you and we cannot find a resolution to that, I will talk with Dana about it. I'll pull her into the situation, give her all of the information. And if we can't find a resolution that works for me, for the mentor, for the mentee, and for Dana, the brokerage as a whole, then the mentorship is going to have to be terminated. I don't like doing that, but you know, sometimes you work with a client that you have to terminate the relationship with. It just happens as part of life and part of being in business. So we do occasionally have to address terminating an agreement and reassigning them, or you know, if the mentee is just not a good fit for the company, then maybe they find somewhere else to hang their license, or you know, they may get assigned to me and I'll work with them or whatever. We're going to do everything we can here at Maximum One and in my mentor program to resolve any issues that we have. So. At the end of the mentorship, the mentee will be given a survey. This is just a sample of the survey that I have. I've changed the questions around a little bit, but what it does is gives me a good look at how is the process that we have in place working? Are there things we need to add to it? Are there things that we maybe put too much emphasis on that we don't need to? Was the mentee fully satisfied with the program, and if not, why? I want that from every single mentee that goes through the program. I get feedback from the mentor on the program as well. I add things and tweak things and take suggestions and remove things all the time that are not productive or can add production to the program. It's most important to me as the director and as a mentor too, to make sure that what I give is of value. And you can't really teach somebody everything. There's always some facet of real estate that you haven't experienced or heard about, or you just haven't been taught about it yet, that you don't cover. But I like to encompass as much of the real estate industry as I possibly can. So that's where this survey comes in, is to let me know, did the program that I have implemented cover enough of their needs, and how can I do better? So if you have any suggestions on those type of questions, I would love to hear them. And then I give this certificate. It's a certificate of completion each time that a mentee graduates the program. I was presenting this program to Dave and Dana and Dawn Southern, our compliance broker, when I first told them that I wanted to direct the program. And so I gave Dave a certificate. He didn't complete the program. So if he says he did, it's a fake certificate. Don't let him pull that over on you. So that's the end of my slideshow. I'm going to take this off of my screen. I want to put back up for you. Dana, can you still see? I'm not seeing the Zoom screen. Okay, my screen share is paused. Okay.
So we're still seeing your screen, Patty.
Okay. Do you see my introduction letter?
We see a picture of a home
With
with
me?
your photo and your email information. It says local real estate expert, don't make a move without me. Yes.
Okay. So as I was saying earlier, I am licensed in Georgia and in Florida. And so I do farming in both places. And this is the letter that I did for my Georgia farming. I am targeting subdivisions that are 300,000 and up. And this is the picture that I got from Pexels. And I made this on a Word document. This was a whole house and yard and fence and everything. And I just cropped the photo and put it in, put my headshot in, all of my contact information. These are some of the fonts that I got off of Font Swirl. And then wrote a little letter to them. And that's what I held, this is what I held up a while ago to the camera that has my blue ink signature at the bottom. And I hand address these with a blue pen. And then Florida is a beach area that I work in, and it's a little more of a fun area. So I put a fun headshot on there, a little more sassy, a beach house, and kind of the same type of letter, same information that I put in here, and I signed it with wet ink and hand addressed those as well. So the sample that I got for this was on Google. I did Google in real estate introduction letters, and this type of format was there, and I just kind of copied it. How do I go back where I can see the screen? Can you see me now, Dana?
No, you just have to click stop share.
Ha, there you are.
All right, there's a question. Can an agent request to mentor someone they have brought to the company and have a relationship with?
It can be requested, but it can't be guaranteed. The reason is several factors. There's a lot of factors that go into placing a mentor and a mentee together. We always try to accommodate that. The mentor has to have taken this class. They have to have the experience to mentor. If you haven't been in the industry long enough or had enough transactions, then you may not have the knowledge that it takes to give the mentee what they need. And then I speak with, like I said, the compliance broker for the mentor agent. And if I have any questions, I'll, of course, always go to Dana with those. So we try to make that happen every time, but it doesn't happen every single time. It's no guarantee.
So in general, depending on your brokerage you're with, you're going to want to check with your broker or your mentor director. And there's a lot of factors that go into any broker or any system assigning a mentor to a new licensee. There are a lot of people that have a big heart and want to share and want to give back. But there are some people that are, some agents are better at agenting and other agents are better at teaching. So just because you are a fabulous agent does not necessarily mean that you have skills that lend themselves to teaching those skills to another. So that's one factor to look at. The other factor is you might have a big heart, but your contracts are a mess. So that's where your compliance broker might come into play. Another issue is you might be a fabulous agent and a fabulous at contracts and have a huge heart and be a great teacher, but you might be just covered up with a lot of business. So you don't necessarily have the time that a new licensee will require. So in any brokerage, there are a lot of factors that go into assigning a mentee to a mentor. And then like Patty said too, there are personality differences. Sometimes there might be some gender issues. There are all kinds of things that come into play. Patty, why don't you talk a little bit about what happens if a mentor and a mentee are, a new licensee is assigned to a mentor and they think they're going to get along great, and then something happens throughout the course of that interaction in that relationship. What happens at that point?
Okay, so that's happened several times, and I've had a few different experiences with it. So as I was saying, it can happen for multiple reasons, just as Dana said. It might be a personality conflict. It might be that the mentee doesn't feel they're getting what they need out of the program. The mentor might decide it's not something they want to do, it's too much work, or they have too many transactions going on, or something in life comes up where they can no longer be that person's mentor. So one of the mentees that I took on was with another mentor, and this was very early, right when I became the director of the program. There were obviously already mentor and mentee relationships going on. So a mentee came to me and said, I'm just not getting what I need, and I need more support than this. And so because I didn't know that mentor, I obviously talked with Dana and Dawn about this one. So we talked that through. There were conversations that were had with the mentor. She kind of agreed that she wasn't really providing what was needed. And so that mentee was reassigned to me. The mentor was happy because that kind of got it off of her plate. It wasn't her thing. The mentee was happy because all of a sudden she sat down at my desk and I laid out this whole program in front of her. And now she had some structure to follow. She's the one that I said very quickly completed her 3 transactions. And we continued on for a few weeks after that to finish the mentor program. And she graduated. That one was an easy fix. We did have one that was a personality conflict. And that was a little more difficult for me to work through because I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in business since I was 25 years old. I've owned my own businesses, and I've had a lot of employees come through. And so conflict resolution with my employees was very important to me because I wanted my business to run like a well-oiled machine. And I want the mentor program to run that way as well. So with the personality conflict, my first thought was not we have a personality conflict. My first thought was we just didn't get the train out of the station the best way. So maybe the tracks were a little rickety or something, So I'm thinking, okay, well, if we set it straight and we get it going in the right direction, things are going to work out. And after several more conversations, I realized that there's a conflict here that can't be solved between these two people. So I had a conversation with a mentor. I didn't want her feelings to be hurt, but it's just business. I would want that particular mentor to be my mentor. She's a teacher's teacher. So I was having a hard time wrapping my mind around it. But when I spoke to the mentee and really had that conversation, the conflict resolution conversation that the slide showed that I have, I began to realize that they're speaking two different languages. They are in different places in life. When they're having a conversation, what the mentor is saying is not what the mentee is hearing. So worked with Dana on that one and found her a mentor that met her needs better. They had one conversation, they hit it off, and now they're on their way to a successful mentorship. So it worked in that instance. The other type of resolution is for the mentee to not be satisfied, or the mentor not to be satisfied. And through conversations and trying to give every resolution that we possibly can, sometimes the mentee is not very accepting of what we have to offer, and it ends up being that they're not a good fit for our particular brokerage. That doesn't mean they can't be a real estate agent. It just means maybe they need to find a brokerage that handles things differently, that has a different type of education, or that their training is different than what we have to offer here through our mentor program. So sometimes they need to find a different brokerage to go to, and that's fine. Probably everybody in this class has switched brokerages at one time or another, and that is one of the steps that sometimes we have to take as resolution. So I have a question that says, how do you address the issue of a mentee that needs more than 3 transactions training before moving them from the mentorship program? That would be a broker decision here, because the mentor program that I run as the director is for a limited number of transactions. So when those transactions are complete, if I don't feel like they finished the transactions to make them a good enough agent to protect the public, then I need to be having a conversation with them saying, hey, I really feel like you're not ready. Do you want to do some more transactions? Because there is money involved in that, they may be reluctant to do that. They now want to go on to not splitting their transactions with a co-agent or a mentor anymore. So if that is the case, I would have a conversation with Dana and let her know what my feelings are, not just my emotional feelings, but based on these items, how she's written her contracts, what her compliance broker says she does in the pipeline, and if we've had any issues with the transactions that we did that I didn't feel like she really had the skills to handle yet. And then that's really between the broker and the agent. So I try to do my part as far as I can take it, and then at some point, it's not my decision any further. I hope that answers that, Dorothea. I have right now 3 mentees that I'm working with, and I've got one that is a go-getter, that does everything I ask them to do, that she has a budget available to her. She does her homework every week, and she's just really going after it. Then I have one that's kind of middle of the road. She has a little bit of a budget. She's willing to do the work, but she brings a lot of excuses through the doors. And then I have one that she doesn't have a budget at all. She has a desire to do the tasks that I'm giving her, and I'm trying to be creative about giving her the tasks that don't cost her money because she has no budget, but to also get her business going into her funnel. And sometimes there's some reluctance on her part to do what she's supposed to be doing. So I just wanted to kind of go through with you how I handle those situations. I have obviously their forms that I fill out. This is their introductory letter where we did their first take on there. And this is the one that does everything I ask. She did her sphere of 100 by the 2nd week. She had her letter by the 3rd week. She went into Remind by herself. and learned the system and pulled out some farming stuff, and she started doing her farming. The third week, she mailed her intro letter. She didn't have a sphere of 100. She had a sphere of 248. So she used her budget money for color prints, envelopes, postage, sending to that farm. She has return on that where she's able to get people to respond to her letter. So that begins to put business in her funnel of people that she can drip campaign to and eventually get business from or referrals from. On her third meeting, since she did her farm so well, I went ahead and set her task as planning her next 11 touches. So I know when you use a CRM and you set up a drip campaign, you do the same thing for every client. And that you set that up to how you work. I can't set that up in the mentor program for everybody to do the same 12 steps in their drip campaign because everybody is different. Some people have call reluctance and will not pick that phone up if it meant selling a $2 million home. I have call reluctance, but then I kick myself and go, you want that sale, pick the phone up. So, and then some people will pick the phone up and go, hey, what's going on? I want to sell your $2 million house. So this particular one, she's a little shy, and she's really good at doing the behind the scenes stuff, but I want her face in front of the client too. So I've had to encourage her to add some phone calls and try to meet them for coffee and stuff. Well, right now we're not doing that, but before this, trying to meet them for coffee and stuff like that so that she could get that face-to-face contact. Because remember we said that NAR statistics show that people will hire the first agent that they meet in person. So whether that's doing a video, whether it's meeting in person or doing a Zoom meeting or things like that, I encouraged her for that to be one of her steps. She wrote her business plan. She wrote a great business plan. And then she started setting her goals based on what her end game, her business plan for the year was. And she's been taking those steps to meet that business plan. And she now has three potential clients that are in her funnel that, she's planted those seeds. She's been watering those seeds with her drip campaign, doing fantastic. And now those seeds are starting to grow and she'll be producing fruit soon. So I've been going through a mock contract with her, and we've done the buyer brokerage agreement, we've done a fake listing, we've done comps and all of that sort of thing. Now, I started with the second agent at the same time as her, and we're not nearly as far along because she took 3 weeks to get her sphere of influence going. That's the thing I have to hold them accountable for. Leave the excuses at the door, block your time out. You can't use, I have a kid at home as an excuse every single week because you didn't write your sphere of 100 down. I know you sat and watched TV because you told me about the TV show you watched. You need a piece of paper writing stuff down. If you've ever met me, you know that I'm very straightforward and I don't give people a lot of slack when they tell me they're going to do their assignments. I hold them to that. So we have reached the point where she now has her sphere of 100. She signed up for Chime, which is the CRM with Maximum One. So immediately she had her website and she had her ability to send drip campaigns and keep up with her database. And we're diving into that a little more. I'm thrilled about it because it's very easy to kind of get it set up. It takes time at first, but then she does have that time to spend with her kid because she's got a drip campaign going and it notifies her when she's supposed to do something, and it notifies her when the steps have already been done that she was supposed to take, that the system's doing for her, and she's planting seeds. So I have to hold that one's feet to the fire a little bit. The third one I'm struggling with a little bit and having to really hold her feet to the fire and hold her accountable because she has a spouse who's a teacher who has not been working and is at home, and they wanted to put a new refrigerator in the house, and they had some laundry to do, and they wanted to plant flowers in the yard, and the severe 100 wasn't being done each week. So those are mostly the accountability issues that I have, is where they have excuses for everything they didn't do. An accountability issue I'm okay with is if you did everything you could possibly do to design your introductory letter and you just can't get there, you may not have that skill set. I have that skill set. I'm a whiz at using Word and Publisher and the PowerPoint, things of that nature. So I can help you do all of that stuff. So I guess what I'm telling you is that you have to plug into each of your mentees where they are. It's not a cookie cutter program. That was my point. And I'm dealing with the three different mentees in different ways, because I have three different personality types. I have three different sets of energy, three different desires to get the job done, and three different business plans. So if you're going to mentee more than one person, be prepared for that, and be prepared for all kinds of situations. You know, I have one that wrote a contract, and she got down to the closing was today. Last week, she's contacting the lender. It's her buyer, and she is not getting information from the lender that she needs. The lender's just saying, we've got to hold up, we've got to hold up, we've got to hold up. The documents get sent to the attorney. The attorney sends the documents back because the attorney has an amendment that says the price was reduced. The lender doesn't have that amendment. So if you've done transactions where there was new information, you know, that has to go back through underwriting because there's been a change to the contract. So it went back through underwriting, and the mentee called me yesterday and said, I failed to send the amendment to the lender. I sent it to the attorney, but I didn't send it to the lender. And so now we're going to have to postpone closing, and it's a domino effect. Everybody has to postpone closing. That was a hard lesson for her, but she only had to learn that one time. I learned, and my question to her is, where are you on the checklist that I provided you for your contract to close? And guess what? She wasn't using one. So holding her feet to the fire, I'm saying, why aren't you using your checklist? I gave those to you. I put a lot of time and effort into those. And if you're not using them, they're no good to you. So use your checklist. Obviously, going forward, she's going to use the checklist. That was a hard lesson for her, but that's one of the harder ones that I've experienced with one of my mentees. So they will learn lessons, and they will teach you lessons as well. So Dana, do we have any additional questions that I can answer?
I don't see any right now. I just want to, I remember back a long time ago, and as a broker, a lot of new licensees ask me, you know, how do I dress? I'm with the public, you know, it's like, you can't wait to get an appointment, then you get an appointment and you're scared to death. But I know I've got an answer, but I want to hear your answer, Patty, since you deal with mentors and mentees and new licensees. How does someone brand new in real estate answer the question from the public, well, how long have you been in real estate, or how many clients do you have, or something, when something that the agent does communicates that they're new or not busy or not as experienced? How do you work with agents on to address that issue?
So I got them to answer the question the same way I did when I first got into real estate. And my answer was long enough to know that I love it and not long enough to be tired of it.
That's a great answer.
So.
That's a great answer. The way I used to answer it, because even if you're an experienced agent, you know, you might get the objection of a public person wanting to deal with a big, huge team versus you. And, you know, that answer that I always used was, you know, it really depends on what kind of an experience you're looking for. And if you're, you know, it depends on if you yourself are part of a big team or if you are an individual agent. If you're an individual agent, then what you tell the public person is, you know, look, I deal with everything from this moment meeting with you through the end. I am very familiar with every aspect of all parts of the transaction. I know everything that's going on. I've got my hand in everything. I've got the overall picture and I know what's going on. When you're dealing with a big, huge group, you might deal with a different person every time you call them and they don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going on. But then on the other side of it, if you are in a big group, you're like, look, we've got somebody that specializes in every aspect of the transaction. We've got an agent that specializes just in the listing and the marketing. We've got an agent that specializes, someone on the team that specializes just with once you go under contract, keeping it together through closing. So again, the objection handler, so to speak, or the response depends on, you know, what side of the, what kind of a team or a broker or an agent that you are. But don't let that scare you. You know what I mean? If you are a new licensee, if you're dealing with a new licensee, you've got all my time. I only have a couple clients, so all of my time is spent on it.
Dana, and I'll also say that a lot of times the agent on the other side of the deal will see that your license number is a low number, and I come from a place of education with those agents. We're trying to get to the same goal, but I always tell my mentees, don't let that make you feel less than, because we're on a team together. I'm the director, your mentor, and you have a mentor, and the three of us have teamed up to make sure that you have a successful real estate career. So you have all of this support. So on your team, you have people that if you don't know the answer to something, you have somebody you can immediately reach out to and get an answer. And if it's something that I'm not as well versed in, you know, Patty's well versed in that, and she's helping me with that. So I always let them know that and that really opens them up to saying, I do have a whole team behind me. In my brokerage, all of these people are on my team. So that's another thing that I'll let them know that they need to let people know about, because there's an expert in your brokerage on whatever subject matter you need help with.
Exactly. Any questions from anybody else? Nobody? Who of you guys, of those of you that are on this class, are any of you guys current mentors or looking to train somebody, or on a team and looking for hints or ideas on how to train someone? Or any of y'all have you worked with either in a formal or in an informal capacity, working with somebody that's come to you for help with this real estate business?
Do you want them to type it in the chat, or do you want them
to
you
can type it in the chat. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, on a team. On a team mentoring new members. So any specific issues that you want Patty to address that she has not? No, I'm good. Great material. Work with another agent. Current mentor. Can see I have a lot to learn myself. Friend, want to get into real estate. Patty, I have a question. Where did you get that format for your letter? Google. Yes, Google, the website.
Scarlett, I use Google, and I just Googled real estate introductory letter. And if you'll send me a text, I know you have my number. If you will send me a text, I will text you the information. I can send you the URL for where I found those images, or I can email you a copy of mine if you wanted to see that.
On a your team is
Thank you for now.
Awesome. Awesome. Any other resources that any of you guys have that you think anybody could use to help either themselves or with a new mentor? Can you mentor an agent that is returning to the practice? Absolutely. Great format. Need to take another job, not in the referral. Need to come back as a full. Okay, so Patty, talk a little bit about the difference between working with an agent and some of the differences of things that you have to highlight, like the contracts and stuff like that. When you're working with an agent who has been an experienced agent, they've just been out of it for a while. That is a different type of a mentor, training, coaching type situation and talk just a little bit about what you focus on with that agent.
And it depends on how long they've been out of the business, Dana. If they've just been out of the business the last 3 or 4 years, you know, they still had a 7-page contract. They have the different contingencies and stuff like that. So they're usually more up on what the documents and stuff look like, and they know about technology and things of that nature. So just kind of really getting them, you know, up to speed on how contracts have changed, what social media help they need, things of that nature, and reestablishing their business with the basics, office supplies, you know, name tags, business cards, objection handlers, what systems you're using at your brokerage and things of that nature. If it's somebody that's been 15, 20 years, I can remember the first house my husband and I bought. We've been married for 31 years. The first house that we bought was a front and back of 1 page. And that page included the financing contingency, all the terms and everything. So that agent that hasn't worked in the business all of that time, you bring them into a 8-page, what is it, 9 pages now? 9-page contract, 8-page contract, 4-page appraisal contingency, financing contingency, seller's property disclosure that's 7 or 8 pages long, and all of a sudden you've got a contract that is 15 or 20 pages long, and that person's overwhelmed. And in addition to that, they haven't been dealing with technology. They don't know about social media. They don't know how to use their smartphone to open a house. You know, it's a little bit more of a challenge for them. And instead of focusing so much on developing their cornerstone for their business, because they've done that and they know how to do those things, we focus a little more on the technical side of doing the business and understanding the contracts and what documents they want to use. And again, I try to follow what it is that that agent needs, and then hone the experience to meeting them where they are, as opposed to having something that's already structured for the new agent that has never done real estate before. These are the steps we're going to take in this order. More of a where are you, what do you need, and let's meet there and make sure you get the education you need to protect the public.
I think those are all great issues. So there's the contract issues, which even for an experienced agent, they change. You guys, just since we're speaking of that, GAR just did their revision May 1st. Make sure to check those out. There's a couple of major changes in the contract. The sale release contingency exhibit is a huge change, and the closing attorney holding the earnest money is a huge change. So take a look at that, or take the GAR contract dissection class that I teach. Also, Patty, there's a lot of technology, and I think there's a lot of agents that have been out of it for a while that are coming back into it, that get a little frightened, you know, when you hear, oh, you got to be on Facebook, you have to be on Instagram, you have to do all of that. And then I've got a comment, you know, when I was in it, I sort of dabbled in it, never really dove in enough to retain information. And law, you guys, you've got to take the license law class. That's a requirement for your license, and to keep yourself and your clients out of trouble. So just maybe comment just a little bit on some of the technology in that. Unless there's any other questions, I think talk a little bit about a new licensee and an experienced licensee coming back, just how to address the issue of technology. Do I need to know technology? Do I not need to know technology? Should I be scared of that? What do I do now as a real estate agent with technology?
To me, it depends on what your sphere is like. If you've been in the industry before and you already know how to do real estate, of course you have to know how to use some technology, because our documents are all online. We can do e-signatures now, and even now we can do e-closings. That's a new thing that the governor approved during COVID for a short period of time. But they need to at least have those basic skills and take classes that are offered from FMLS and from Georgia MLS and through places like Georgia Real Estate Academy and other places that offer classes to learn how to use the basic technology. There are agents that I know of that have such a sphere, they've been doing it so long, they don't have to be on social media posting stuff. They just they just organically get business and they're top producers, and that's fantastic. They take a few years off and come back into it. They do still need training through one transaction to get brought up to speed on, the laws and the contracts and the brokerage's policies and procedures and things of that nature. But I don't think that they necessarily have to be all about social media, all about video marketing and things of that nature if they've already got enough business to grow their career. A new agent getting into it, I don't know how they're going to grow their business without using technology and learning all of those things. So I think it's important for them to know how to use social media, how to use, obviously, a smartphone, how to use video marketing, how to use all of the MLSs, the documents, the CRM and things like that. I'm not saying it's a necessity, and I'll be honest with you, I use Chime as my CRM, but I am not Chime proficient. It screams at me all the time I'm not doing my tasks, and it's right. I have good business. I do produce good business in our company, and I'm happy with where I am. When I feel like it's sliding a little bit, then I plug myself back into those things. But as a new agent coming in, whatever their business plan dictates that they need, they've got to learn those technologies that feed the success to reach that business plan. That's my opinion about it, and I work with them individually on what it is that they need. One of my mentees now wants to put all of her database in Chime to begin with so that she doesn't have to go back and set that up later. So she's digging into that and really learning it. One of them keeps it on a spreadsheet, and that's fine. She likes a spreadsheet. That's how she works. She's been a teacher most of her life, and she knows how to do her drip campaign through her spreadsheet. I'm okay with that. But they all still need to learn the basic technologies of MLSs and e-signature and Supra and things of that nature. I try to encourage them to do video marketing, but most of us try to stay away from that as much as we can.
Awesome. Well, Patty, thank you so much. This has been very informative. Again, everybody, for the documents, if you go to eagentweb.com, click on training videos, and then find this class. I'm typing at the same time, and you will see hyperlinks to so you can download the PDF copies of all of the handouts that Patty did talk about, as well as a copy of the PowerPoint. I did record the class, so hopefully I tried to record it. Hopefully we didn't have any technical issues with that, and a copy of the recording will be on that site as well. Again, CE credits will be recorded within 3 to 5 business days. You will not hear back from us regarding that. You can log on to GREC yourself and check your own CE credits, and check with your qualifying broker in their roster can see your CE credits too. Again, if you had not done so prior to the break, since you came back from the break, type in your name, email address, and your real estate license number. And again, we just use this as a cross-check for those who actually attended. Patty, thank you so much. It was great. You guys can unmute yourself if you want to actually say something to Patty rather than type it in. Patty put her email address, and then there it's mx1mentor@maximum1.pro. We thank you guys so much. The June calendar is coming out. Again, the majority of our CE classes are going to be virtual. You can go on there and check, and we will send out an email of those classes. We're still working on some of those registrations.
Sorry, we've got another CE class starting at 1 o'clock here, so it's been a pleasure. I hope that you all enjoyed the class. I appreciate you attending. Please, Dana said, hey, Dawn.
Hey, Dana.
Please email me if you have any questions or give me a call. You can find my cell phone number pretty much anywhere but 678-910-5217. I'll type it down here so that you can record that too. Let me know what questions you have. I appreciate it so very much. Thank you, Dana, for facilitating.
Thank you, Patty. Don't hang up yet, because I got to take the host back before before I turn it off. So I gotta find it.
Go ahead.
I gotta find it.
I'm gonna leave it up. I'm gonna move out of Dawn's way.
Here we go. Reclaim host. I reclaimed the host, so I don't know if I have it back yet. Yeah, I do. Awesome. All right, thank you, everybody. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe, stay kind, and go help not only buyers and sellers, but go help other agents who can benefit from your experience and your heart and your desire to help them. Thank you, everybody.